Welcome back to the second Thought Leader Podcast episode. Today, I am going to get to pick back at my good friend Chris Pyron, and that's who's in the seat next to me. So, Chris,
it's only fair. I got to pick at you in the first one. So.
Exactly. So, we are just going to dive in.
Okay.
I think people already have my short little podcast episode that kicked off there. They should have a feel for what we're going to do. So
they only get shorter from here.
You're right.
Or from there.
Yeah, from there, probably. You know, the intention was really to keep it to an hour, and that just didn't quite happen. But
best of intentions were there, I think.
That's right. That's right. But
it was a great episode, though. It really was.
Well, I appreciate that. We'll see, I guess. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that episode. We're here to make this episode.
Let's do it.
And today we are going to dive into you. Who is Chris Pyron? We talked a little bit on the first one about how, just telling our story and one, to share with other people, but more importantly, I think about just telling our story so we can kind of settle in that and we can kind of lean into that, knowing that just God has us and what God has done for us and how he's brought us to this point. So any thoughts on that before I start diving in?
Yeah, and I think we kind of hit it in the first episode a little bit about, just telling those stories to remind ourselves of how we got to where we are and why we're doing the things that we're doing today.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people that know us know we've known each other for a long time.
A couple years.
So there's probably not too many rocks you're going to flip over on this that's going to surprise me, but I'm looking for it. So
there might be a couple.
There might be a couple. So we're going to pretend like no one knows that we know each other and we just met. I'll pretend like I just met you. That's going to be hard. But let's just start in the beginning. Where were you born and what did childhood kind of look like for you?
Yeah, so I was born in Branson, Missouri. Spent most of my childhood there. I have one younger sister. She's 3 years younger than I am. She was actually born up in central Missouri. My father did a number of years in PR for the college there in Point Lookout, College of the Ozarks. He and my mom are both College of the Ozarks grads.
Okay.
Met in college, stayed in Branson, and started a family. Dad worked in public relations for the college, wound up moving to central Missouri up around the Sedalia area in Marshall, and that's where my sister was born. And then around the age of 3, I think, we came back to the Branson area and spent pretty much the rest of my childhood there growing up, through school and all that. So was kind of born into the church. Mom and dad both believers. Yeah. So grew up at First Presbyterian Church, Branson, Missouri, and
which they still are very involved with today.
They're both still very involved even today. Yeah, mom is still on staff there, and gosh, I couldn't even hazard to guess how many years it's been. But it's been a while.
Yeah.
So kind of grew up in the church, around the church all the time. Heavily involved in volunteering. Mom sang in the choir before she was on staff. She was singing in the choir. Dad was always helping out with stuff. So it was like if it was a Sunday or a Wednesday or any other day of the week that ended in Y, there was a good chance we were probably at the church doing something.
I can relate to that. So, yeah. Gotcha.
But yeah, so just being around the church all the time, was cool. Growing up in that environment was pretty awesome. To get to see not just what happens on Wednesdays and Sundays, but all the other workings of what happened there. So
yeah, that's cool. So I actually knew you. We haven't gotten there yet, but in high school, and I actually met your dad many years later. But I met your dad when I was working at Theatrical Lighting Concepts.
Okay,
and he needed some stuff. I don't even remember what it was, but some stuff for the church because he was the volunteer AVL guy.
Yeah. So he actually was kind of, I shouldn't say thrust into that role, but so my father was in broadcasting, radio broadcasting.
Yeah, and that's where you get the voice from.
It's a genetic thing. He taught me how to speak. So thank you, Dad. I appreciate it. But growing up in the church, this is going back to like the 80s. We had, you remember those Shure 5-channel rotary mixers that they used to make?
100%.
Okay. Dig this. We had 4 of those that were cascaded together, and that was the mixer for the church.
I remember that well. That was probably one of my first or second visits to meet your dad at the church. I caught onto that real quick.
Yeah. And there was an older gentleman there who had been running sound. I'm pretty sure since Jesus was in Sunday school there. Like, he had been around a long time. And he would sit there and run those little rotary knobs and make the mics, come up and down as they were supposed to at the appropriate times for the most part. And then the church decided, hey, we're going to step into the 21st century here and actually put a proper mixer in and a proper PA and all that stuff. That was a little bit of a jump for this gentleman to look at a Mackie 1604. It's like, that's a lot of knobs and buttons. He needed one knob for volume. The EQ and all this other stuff was, I think, a little bit out of his depth. So he asked my dad, he said, hey, would you be willing to step in and kind of take the reins of this audio thing here at the church on a volunteer basis? And Dad's like, yeah, sure, no big deal. Again, being in radio wasn't a thing for him. They had consoles like that in most of the studio spaces that they had.
Right.
So Dad started doing audio pretty much every week for the church. And I would sit right at his hip, in the booth. I'd just sit there and watch.
Yeah. And
I was about 11, I guess, at the time when that all went down. And so I was sitting there with Dad, and every now and then he'd be like, hey, I gotta bounce real quick. I run down front and do something or step out for a second. Can you babysit this? I'm like, sure. So Dad would walk away and I'd slide over and sit in the seat, and I ran sound. Just basically, it's like, I'm just watching the console. I mean, it's just doing its thing, right? But yeah, so kind of started figuring out, okay, fader makes volume. And then I figured out what the EQ knobs did and all that kind of stuff, and kind of started cutting my teeth a little bit behind that desk. And so I started in audio.
What desk?
The Mackie 1604 VLZ Mark II. It was the second version of it.
Right on. Okay.
So yeah, have very fond memories of that desk, actually.
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah, but so kind of started getting interested in it then at that point. And I was like, okay, I think I could maybe figure out how to do this more. So I kind of started helping my dad out then. So we would ping pong back and forth, behind the audio desk at church on a Sunday. Then got into high school, and the choir director at Branson High School also attended our church. So he knew that I knew how to do sound stuff. And he came to me early my freshman year and said, hey, you know how to do sound? I said, yeah, I do. And he said, well, we need a student who can help do sound stuff for events, whether it's assemblies or graduation, that kind of stuff, events that happen at the school. We have a sound system. It was a portable PA at the time, but the guy who had been doing it had just graduated and had moved out. So I figured out what the gear was, and we had an assembly, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I got it all hooked up, made it all work, and yeah, cool. Then I kind of became the student sound guy for the high school. Going through that first year of high school, Branson High School had a really cool way of doing their spring talent show, the student talent show that happened every year. You went to Branson High School as well, so you're well acquainted with this too.
Very.
I think you mentioned in the last episode, Branson was very seasonal. With the theaters and everything in town. And the cool thing was the high school that we were in, we didn't have a performing arts center or a theater of any kind in the school.
It was a gymatorium.
We had a gymatorium at best.
At best. It's a great way to put it.
And gym acoustics always sounds so awesome for events like that. So they would use a local theater to host the spring talent show because most of the theaters were dark during that part of the year. So I don't remember what theater we were in that year, but we said, hey, we're doing it at this theater. And we had a few days of rehearsals, for all the students to come through who were, participating in the talent show. The choir director came and said, hey, this is where we're doing it. You want to go look at the audio systems and see what's going on? I said, sure. And we walked in, and there was a Yamaha 3000 in front of house. This is the biggest desk I'd ever seen in my life.
That's a sizable desk.
It was a big desk. And I'm pretty sure he saw the fear in my eyes when I looked at this thing. It was like, that's a lot of knobs. That's a lot of faders. And now it's a 16-channel mixer, just duplicated out many, many times. Right.
Yeah.
They all do the same thing. But I think he saw the fear in my eyes and was like, I need to use a phone a friend and get some support in here for him just to make sure he can fly on his own. And so he reached out to a former student of his who he knew. And I think it was first or second night of rehearsals. And I was kind of making my way through the system and getting things happening. And this guy appeared in the booth and said, "Hey, my name's Daryl. I'm here to help." I think that was the first time you and I actually met.
Yeah.
Because you had graduated a couple years before I was there.
Yeah.
And so we got to meet in the sound booth, and you were like, "Oh yeah, here, let me help you out."
The funny part about that is that I knew who you were, but when you're always a foot taller than everyone else, everyone knows who you are.
Everyone knows who you are. You're the head above the crowd. Yeah.
So like I knew who you were, and of course I knew your dad because I mean he's very much a radio legend in our area. There's no question about it. So everybody knows who Greg Pyron is, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s in the area. So, but I remember that well.
Yeah,
I remember that well. And so a lot of people don't realize that like our relationship kind of, that's the first time, I guess that's when it started, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, probably so.
But anyway, so weird what God has planned in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, so throughout high school, I wasn't, you mentioned my height and my size, right? How I stick out in a crowd.
Everyone does.
Yes. Almost every day, it seems like.
I love going through the airport with you. It's great.
Just watching everyone's reactions.
Well, and me and you side by side walking through the airport.
I'm sure we look funny doing that. But,
it looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito walking down the airport.
Twins?
Yeah, Twins.
But even with my height, I was not a basketball player. Just so everyone's aware, if you want to ask in the comments, I'll just tell you the answer now. No, I did not play basketball. However, music was a big thing for me.
Band, though.
Music became a big thing for me. Yeah, I played football in like grade school and like junior high. Actually wound up blowing my knee out in like 8th grade. So I didn't have a chance to play high school football. Yeah, I was kind of done. Yeah. But I shifted my focus to music instead. Had I been good enough to actually play ball on any collegiate level, or even semi-pro or pro, I'd have been done by the time I was 40.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, I can do music the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So got involved in the band program and choir and all that kind of stuff. So I was the band geek kid, with all the content. There we go.
Me too.
But so did that all through high school. Actually met my now wife in high school. Got to marry my high school sweetheart. We met in the band program there at Branson, and so that was kind of my high school days, I suppose.
Yeah. I do want to ask a question.
Okay.
Just because we grew up in the same area, and I don't know that I know this answer, but like, I'm interested to know, what was your first job in Branson, and like what was your favorite job in Branson in the kind of the pre-graduation of high school? Because I don't know when you started working or whatever, but first job and like your favorite job.
So Branson in the 90s and even kind of into the early 2000s, big tourist destination.
Yep.
Music was the thing.
Right.
All the theaters. You worked in some of those theaters. Growing up in that environment is very unique. Being a town of 4,000 or 5,000 people, but having 2 million visitors a year that come into the area is just really, really interesting.
Yep.
Lots of retail, lots of theaters and entertainment kind of stuff. My very first job that I had was at a shop called Mastercraft Puppets.
Wow, I don't even know that I know that one.
Oh, okay.
Where was that at?
That was at the Engler Block. So Engler Block was I'll call it a craft mall, but that's really underselling what it was.
I agree.
It was a spot. Pete Engler was a wood carver in the area and just made beautiful pieces of work. Mm-hmm. And he started this craft mall spot for other artisans in the area to come together to be able to sell whatever it is they make. You had leather workers, copper, quilters,
glass blowers.
the glass blowers. Yeah, there's a glass blower shop there, all kinds of stuff. There was a couple that had been in the Branson area for a number of years, Gary and Andrea Sparks, and they were master puppeteers.
Oh, wow.
How they landed in Branson, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like we're talking like Jim Henson level kind of stuff.
Oh, cool.
Like excellent at their craft, and they actually had developed their own line of puppets. Like you think about when you watch Sesame Street, right? Bert and Ernie, and you know that style of puppet.
Yep.
They actually developed their own line and their own brand of those, and had a shop in the Engler Block.
And that was your first job.
That was my very first job. The Sparks went to the same church that I grew up in, and so that's how I knew them. And they had done some puppet production stuff for the church, like for the student ministries and things like that. And I remember watching, going, "Huh, that's really cool." And so I was kind of interested in it. And then I had gone and visited the shop as a kid and stuff, and they had magic and magic tricks and all these other things that they would sell as well. And quite honestly, I couldn't have cared less about the puppetry side of it. It was the magic.
Oh, see, I was about ready to actually look at the camera and say, so if you're looking at a puppet ministry at your church, you can reach out to Chris
Don't call
Pyron.
Chris Pyron.
Oh, okay. All right.
Don't call Chris Pyron.
All right. It was the magic side.
It was the magic side that was really appealing to me. That was a hobby that I had picked up as a kid, was magic tricks and stuff like that. Yeah. And 14 years old this was kind of when child labor laws kind of started to become a thing, and you needed to be 14 to be able to work even part-time. Yeah. And so I went and talked to Mr. Sparks, and I was like, "Hey, I would be interested if you need any help at the shop, I could come and help in the afternoons after school." He's like, "Oh, that would be great." And so I worked 5 days a week from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. right after school. I'd head over and work until the shop would close in the evening.
That's awesome.
So that was the very first job I ever had.
All right. Your favorite job? My
favorite job, I would have to say, and this is one that I think is going to surprise even you.
Okay, bring it.
S&K Menswear, a men's suit shop.
Yeah.
They're in Branson at the Factory Merchants Mall.
Oh, yeah.
I started working there late high school and through the early part of college. I absolutely loved that.
Wow. I don't know that I knew that you ever worked in a suit shop.
I did a stint for about 3 years in menswear.
And that kind of makes sense, because there's certain thing clothing wise that you're very particular about how you pack, how you and okay, some of that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Right.
So
details.
The details and the little things. One of the things that I loved about it was when like the new suits would roll in for that season or whatever it was, we would have to figure out, okay, now we need to display these things. So it's this suit, but I need this shirt to go with it, and this tie, and this pocket square, and like complete the look.
You like the staging side of it.
The staging and creating this overall look using all these different components, colors and textures and all this stuff that all had to work together. I'll tell this story now. It'll come into play later. But when I'd gotten married to my wife, Kate, we'd been married a few years at this point. We'd gone shopping for her. Now, my wife hates clothing shopping. Yeah. Always has. Does not enjoy the process. But I love like pulling outfits together and all this kind of stuff, like I did at S&K, right? When I was doing the menswear stuff. And we had gone shopping one evening. We were at the mall, and we had been bouncing around between a few different department stores. I can't tell you which department store it was because I don't remember. But I was going around picking out stuff for her. I was like, "Oh yeah, this top and these pants and this and this," and I would just load her up and hand her an armload of clothes and say, "Go to the dressing room," and she'd take off and go try it all on. Well, she's in there doing her thing, and in women's clothing areas of department stores, there's always like the chairs set up for the husbands who are just kind of like stuck, right, waiting for their wives, sitting there holding the purse while the wives in the dressing room. Well, I'm waiting for her to to try the stuff on. I'm getting kind of bored, and so I start sort of just wandering around, and I come around, and there's a mannequin that needed to be dressed, not like anatomically correct, but there's like a display mannequin that needed something on it. It was just the fabric.
You didn't. And
I'm sitting there going, huh. So I go and I pick up this thing and I put it on and put this on. And I dressed this mannequin just because I'm bored. I'm just burning time. And so I get the mannequin dressed, and I'm kind of like, all right, cool. I kind of finish off. I'm like, yeah, that's a look. And I turn around and I start to walk back around. And someone who works at the store, this gal comes walking around the corner with an outfit and pieces parts in her arms. She had gone off to go get the thing she was supposed to put on the mannequin. And she comes walking around and she stops and she looks at the mannequin and goes, oh, and just turns around and walks off. I was like, apparently I did it well enough that they were going to let it stay, at least for a little bit. So
that is hilarious, bro. That's funny.
So not a lot of people know that part of my career path, I guess.
All right. All right.
So I would say that was probably my favorite job that I had in town, though, was in menswear of all things. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right. So you graduated high school.
Yeah, I graduated high school, and I went into college at what is now Missouri State University in Springfield, about an hour north of town.
You mean SMS?
SMS, Southwest Missouri State. There you go. SMS.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah, it used to be SMSU. Missouri State now. Went there, went into the IT program. I was convinced that I was going to be systems admin, networking, I was going for computer information systems degree.
You were going to be an it guy.
I was going to be the it guy.
The it guy.
Yeah.
All right.
So went for a CIS major, made it through my first year, and decided I didn't want to be an it guy anymore.
All right.
I quickly realized I'm going to be spending a lot of time in front of a computer screen, banging out, code. Stuff like
you
that.
want to be dressing mannequins, right?
That's right. I want to be doing pretty stuff. I want to make stuff look cool, not sit here, bashing out a keyboard all day. But decided I didn't want to necessarily continue that track. So I met with my advisor, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? And my honest answer was, I don't know, but I know it's not that.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah. So we went back and forth. I talked to my folks about it, and kind of where we landed was like, well, if I'm not entirely sure what I want to major in, maybe we shouldn't spend the money to go to school until I really know what I want to do, which is totally fine. So I finished up, and finished up that year, and then I moved back to Branson. There was there still is today. I think it's still there. A big property called Chateau on the Lake.
Oh yeah,
it's a big convention banquet hotel center there, right on Table Rock Lake. Yep. And they had a really cool program for actually it's a lot of college students. The banquet hall, this place is huge, like 300
Massive.
feet by 150 feet. I mean, it's almost a football field, I think. Yep. The banquet hall, and huge events happen there. It takes a lot of servers to feed a lot of people at a banquet of scale like that.
Oh, yeah.
And the Chateau would hire college students during the summer to come in as banquet servers because they just needed an army of servers to be able to pull off these events. And so got home and was like, well, I know Chateau was always needing servers, so I went to Chateau on the Lake as a banquet server for the summer and was doing events and, as a banquet server. And we had an event there and the audio was terrible. The sound was just bad is the only way I can describe it. And we got done with the event and everybody had left. And I went and had a meeting or had a conversation with the banquet manager at the time. I was like, who's in charge of the audio here for these events? And she looked at me and just kind of shook her head and said, well, the guy that we had left, a few months ago, we actually don't have anybody who can do that right now. I said, can I help? Because I kind of know a thing or two about audio.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what do you know? I was like, can you ask that question a different way?
I know that didn't sound good, and I think I can fix it.
I know that was bad, and I know we can do better, basically.
Right, yeah.
And so we had some conversations, and I looked at what the systems were on the back end and all that. They had a big matrix system that lived in a rack that, with a room that big, they had air walls that could divide the room up.
Right.
And there was a big matrix system where they could actually link and join rooms or separate rooms. And inevitably, during this time when they didn't have someone in charge, rooms would stay linked and a wall would be closed and someone would be having a meeting over here. And then they'd fire up a mic in this room and it'd be booming in this other room. And people were like, what's going on? And so like, let me be the one who makes sure that this is set right before all the events happen throughout a day. And so I became the guy who made sure that rooms were turned on and off appropriately. Okay, great. But quickly then figured out, okay, well, these mics are ancient and all kinds of beat. Let's get some newer gear in here, some better gear in here, and kind of help guide some purchasing decisions and stuff like that. Did that throughout the summer. Wasn't doing only that. I was still serving as well, but I was helping do that before the event prep stuff. As we got to the end of the summer, I wasn't ready to go back to school again because I wasn't sure what I was doing.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it seemed like it made a lot of sense to stay at the Chateau. And they said, well, we need a full-time AV director to oversee all the banquet operations here. So someone to oversee the audio piece of it, the video piece of it, the lighting pieces, anything that we do for events. Sometimes that meant working with outside contractors to come in. There were some production companies out of Springfield that would come in for some of the larger events. So we would work with them a lot. And so I wound up just going on staff full time at the end of summer as the AV director of banquets there at the Chateau.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was probably my first step into video and lighting.
Okay.
As far as career goes,
right?
Really learning those systems.
Yeah.
And we're talking like the big daylight fast fold screens. And stuff. Everything had to be portable because multi-use spaces and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, started kind of expanding out of audio into those other realms there at the Chateau, and was able to build some great relationships with local vendors, both supply houses, rental houses, for purchases and bigger events that we needed supplemental things to come in for and stuff like that. One of those that I did some purchasing through there locally was Theatrical Lighting Concepts here in Branson.
Yep.
Hey, I need lamps. I need gels. I need tapes. Hey, I need some new wireless units, stuff like that. Yep. I would purchase those through TLC. And I remember when I called over there, I got you on the phone. And so I was like, oh, cool. Daryl, the guy that I met when I was in high school, is here at TLC now, and I could be buying my stuff from him. That's awesome.
Yep.
So did that for a couple years, I think. I was there, and things were starting to kind of wind down for me a little bit. I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm doing this, but what's the next step?
Right.
Well, in the technology production side of things, there wasn't really a next step within that organization. And I had called over to TLC one day to order something, and I said, hey, this is Chris over at the Chateau. I need to talk to Daryl. And I was told, well, Daryl's not here anymore. I was like, oh, he's not? No, he left a couple weeks ago. Oh, well, who can't help me? Somebody else help me. We got it taken care of.
Good.
And then I happened to be looking in the newspaper a couple days later.
Oh, yeah. The classifieds.
The classified ads in the newspaper.
The good old classified.
Just thumbing through the paper and looking at the classifieds. And here's Theatrical Lighting Concepts. They're looking for somebody new to join their team. And like, I know these people.
Yeah.
I've done business with these people. I know the owner. The owner goes to church with my family. Yeah. Phil Lloyd of Lloyd's Electric Supply was the parent company of TLC, Theatrical Lighting Concepts. And so I put together a resume and a letter and sent it over and said, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you about joining the team there. Didn't take super long before I got a phone call back from Phil, actually. And he said, hey, yeah, come in and talk to me. Let's have a conversation about what it looks like for you to come join the team at TLC, which went great. And it didn't take long. And I was able to kind of move in now to the supplier side of the business there with TLC. I remember I started, it was like the middle of September, and I got married 2 weeks later.
Wow.
So like, yeah, I would love to start the new job here. Thank you, Phil, for the opportunity. Hey, by the way,
I'm getting married in 2 weeks.
I need to have these few days off in 2 weeks. I know I don't have any vacation time yet, but I'm getting married.
Right.
He said, great, just take the days off. It's no big deal. Like I don't have any PTO to burn yet. He said, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Just take the time.
Yeah.
Like, well, thanks. I appreciate that. So, but yeah, then joining the team there at TLC was great. That gave me the opportunity to start to work with manufacturers and building relationships with, all of our suppliers there, right? Whether it was lamps, tape, gels, lighting,
Yep.
audio, community loudspeakers, and mock audio, Martin Lighting, all those different brands that we had there. And that was kind of a cool step now into seeing the next progression of the business of, okay, this is not just the end user who uses the stuff on a weekend or a week-to-week basis, but these are the companies that make the stuff, and this is how it then gets to the end users and the customers that use it in church or in production world, that kind of stuff. So that was kind of a cool step there. The interesting thing was, when I got the phone call that Daryl had left, well, it turns out Daryl had gone to be the regional sales manager for Martin Lighting,
right?
Of which Theatrical Lighting Concepts was a dealer for. So I still got to talk to my buddy Daryl every now and then, just in a different capacity now. So that was a really
while
really
Daryl
cool time.
was learning.
I think you and I were both learning a lot at that stage in our careers. Separate, but we were both learning.
We
learning a lot.
We might not have went to and completed. I didn't go at all, but you went at least 1 year. We may not have went to or completed 4 years of college, but we got a lot of college.
We got a lot of higher level learning for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
For sure.
There you go.
Yeah. So started at TLC and got married within about a couple weeks of each other there. Married my high school sweetheart Kate. We dated through all of high school for 4 years there, and then a couple years after, and then decided to, hey, let's go ahead and you're cool, I'm cool. Let's be cool together, and decided to get married. So
I've never heard it put that way, but that's a cool way to say it, I guess.
The really fun thing there is that because we dated for 6 years beforehand, we became best friends first.
Yeah, that's good.
And so getting to marry your best friend is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
And we've been able to stay best friends ever since. So
even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
Absolutely.
Okay, so TLC.
Mm-hmm.
Just got married.
Mm-hmm.
What did the run at TLC look like, and what kind of came after that?
Yeah, TLC was really fun. Getting to work with a lot of the connections I was able to make with guys in the theaters around town was really neat. Growing up in town, I knew some theater folks, but not really being embedded in that industry, kind of like you were, because you were in the theaters.
Yeah.
Getting to meet the lighting designers and the audio guys, and just the production folks who were doing this on a daily basis, some of them multiple times a day, because some of these theaters ran 2 and 3 shows a day.
Right.
Getting to build that network was really cool. Getting to build the relationships with the manufacturers that we were dealers for was great, and gave me a bigger picture of what this industry looked like as a whole, from lighting and audio and everything. It's way bigger than just, hey, this is a microphone that I'm using. It's like, yeah, but somebody made the microphone, who then had a distributor or dealer who then sold that microphone through. Seeing that whole chain all the way through is kind of like, okay.
And who's the person deciding that microphone is what they need, and then deploying it and all of that? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so then was at TLC for a little over a year, and I got a phone call from a guy in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who said, hey, I need a systems engineer. I hear that you could be a systems engineer. I'd like to talk to you. So, great, we're on the phone, let's talk. So we had a conversation, and that conversation kind of ended with, okay, I need to go to Tulsa and meet this guy face to face. I get home that evening, and I'm talking to my wife of 1 year. We've been married just over a year at that point. And I said, hey, babe, I had this conversation with this guy in Tulsa. He's looking for this kind of role. He thinks that I might be a fit for it. I think we should go to Tulsa and have a conversation with this guy. Or I need to go to Tulsa anyway and have a conversation with this guy. And she looked at me and said, wait, you said Tulsa like 3 times. I said, yeah. She said, Oklahoma? The same.
Yeah. That's the one.
That Tulsa.
Yeah.
So that was a company called Tulsa Scenic was that company. So one weekend, took off Friday, like right after work, and drove over to Tulsa and spent the night and met with the guy on Saturday. And I think we made that trip maybe twice over a few weeks, and kind of looked at some options. it was kind of the same sort of business as TLC was, Theatrical Lighting Concepts. He was kind of a supply house for the Tulsa Performing Arts Center, a lot of churches in the Tulsa area. Tulsa's kind of unique in that every corner in Tulsa either has a church or a quick trip on the corner. It's one of the two.
Yeah, and sometimes they're right next to each other.
Sometimes they're side by side.
Both of them.
But Tulsa Scenic did a lot of work with a lot of churches in the area. And everything worked out to where I was like, yeah, I think this is the right next step. And so I took my wife of just over a year, and we packed up and we moved to Oklahoma, where we had no friends, no extended family. I mean, my whole family was in Branson, Missouri. Mom, dad, aunts, uncles, like sister, like family was in Branson. But we decided, we'll just pick up and go.
It's a pretty safe, though. I mean, it's a 2.5, 3 hour drive.
Yeah, it's not like super far away.
Right, but far enough to get some distance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we decided we'd give it a whirl. So I joined the team there at Tulsa Scenic, and my wife got a job there in Tulsa, and things were rolling along, going great. This is early mid 2000s, something like that. And this is right before like that housing bubble thing happened. And that had a direct impact on the touring industry.
Sure.
And all of this business that we had rolling for like 6 months, 8 months, and things were just going great guns, all of a sudden dried up overnight. Yeah. And one day the owner calls me into his office and says, "Hey, I love you. You're great, but."
I hate the but.
I hate that word, but.
Yeah.
You're the last in, and you're one of the highest paid right now. I got to let you go.
That makes you the first out.
Right.
Yeah. Bummer.
So I was like, well, okay. So packed up my stuff and went home. My wife, who was working full time, she finishes out her day like normal. She comes rolling back in about 5:30, and I'm there at the house, and she sees my box of stuff from my office sitting over there, and she's like, "Do we need to talk?" I was like, "Yeah, let's have a conversation.
Let's chat."
She said, "How was your day?" I was like, "Well, let's talk about that."
Well, I cleaned my office today.
Yeah. So here we are. We've been in town 8 months, and all of a sudden now that the job that moved us to town just evaporated in front of me. So
8 months in.
Yeah, 8 months in. Yeah. Again, no family or real support system when we moved to town. Now, we found a church in town really quick when we got there.
Sure.
And got plugged in fast, which was amazing. We got into a small group and had a great circle of friends that we had been able to develop over that 8 month period, which made that whole process a lot easier of transitioning out of the role there at Scenic. I was like, well, okay, here we are. I don't have a job now. And I think the first question that we asked each other was, do we move back to Branson? And
that makes sense.
Yeah. I was like, hey, let's just go back to where we're from, what we know, where we've got people. But we prayed over it. And we both got the same answer. It's like, nope, stay. We're supposed to stay in Tulsa. Okay, we're going to stay in Tulsa and figure this out. I wound up getting a job with, I don't think you know this either. I took a job with a telecommunications company.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
When I left the production world with Scenic, there was a telecommunications company there in Tulsa that was doing high capacity voice and data install for a lot of television networks. So like when the drafts happen, NBA draft, all that kind of stuff. This is early mid 2000s. A lot of extra data was required for something. Right. I don't know, but they were using our company for that. So I came in as a project manager to help with all this deployment of these voice and data installs. And
dude, did you have like one of those trucks with a?
No. I was a project manager, so I sat in an office.
Oh, okay.
While they're doing the actual installs somewhere halfway across the country.
Gotcha.
And I never went on site anywhere, but I was making sure that the orders were getting placed right and it was getting to the right people over here. And then those guys were able to deploy when they needed to and get the access they needed to.
You were the train station.
Yeah. Right. I was just sitting back here conducting the whole thing while magic was happening on the ground. I did that for a year, and then they came to me and said, "Hey, we need you to lead a team of project managers." I said, "Okay." And so they handed me a team of 14 people that were doing the job I was doing. Basically, I was just overseeing the team of 14 people now doing the same thing. And that was so much fun. And looking back on it now, I realize what I learned about networking. Like, I had a little bit from school earlier, but what I learned about networking and my ability to visualize complex networks in my head, it's like I didn't know I could do that. You know, it's like, well, I have this thing over here and this thing, and then it hits a cloud over here, and then it's back down over here. You know, at the time it was cutting edge, high capacity stuff. You know, T1 lines. Remember T1s? Like everybody thought T1 was the thing. You know, we had some cloud based solutions, things that we were starting before the cloud was a thing too. But yeah, so all that networking stuff, you know, figuring out, you know, how those systems worked. I didn't know it at the time, but looking forward or looking back on it now, it's like, oh, that really equipped me for my next move, which was the church that my wife and I had been attending had decided that they were to the point where they needed a full-time production manager, technical director kind of role. And things were going great with the telecom company, had no problems there, but I was volunteering on the weekends, running sound most weekends. And during one Sunday, I was there at church, and I think it was during the sermon. And we still did bulletins. For our services.
The old bulletin.
And we
gotta love that.
We were revolutionary. We had cut it down to a half sheet. One half sheet, printed front and back.
Did that take a vote to cut it down,
or an act of Congress? One of the two. I don't know. It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
We have to have a meeting about this. They want to cut it down to
and let's form a committee to talk about how we're going to do that too. But we had gone to this half sheet thing, and I think it was during the sermon or something. It was probably second or third service of the day, and I was kind of in autopilot mode at that point because I'd heard the sermon a couple times already. So I'd picked up the paper and I was just kind of looking at it, and I get down towards the bottom, and it's like, oh, job opening, technical director, this, that, and the other, audio, video, lighting, oversee these things for the church. I'm like, that's stuff I know about. And one of our associate pastors happened to be standing in the booth next to me. And I leaned over to him and showed him the paper, and I pointed. I'm like, hey, do you think I should send my resume in for this? Because I think this is something I could be a fit for. And he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, well, I think you should, because I was thinking of you when I wrote this job description. I was like,
that's awesome.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that afternoon, Sunday afternoon, I polished out the old resume and emailed it in, and had some great conversations with the leadership there. You know, knew the pastors from working with them on a regular basis. So it wasn't like it was a new thing. It was a very easy transition. And went into full-time ministry, you know, at that point with the church at Kirk of the Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And kind of a unique situation there at that church, in that we had two venues on campus that ran concurrently on a Sunday morning. So we had the sanctuary, which was the traditional service, and then we had what we called the upper room, which was the contemporary service. And we would run those concurrently at the same time. So we would have rock and roll worship going on while people downstairs were singing hymns. Again, knowing how to lead teams from my days in telecom now set me up to be able to lead teams of volunteers, which was like, I was like, oh, thinking about it from a progression standpoint, it's like, why did I have a stint in telecom? That has zero to do with production. But I realize now I wasn't there to learn anything about telecom. I was there to learn how to lead people and lead teams, which had paid huge dividends for me when I joined the church. And I was there for 9 years. And everything I learned about leading a team in the telecom world is what prepped me for that.
That's the foundation.
Another interesting thing that I realized I learned in the telecom world that prepped me for ministry was there was this really cool technology coming out about the time I started at the church called Dante. And it was audio over IP. It was an audio network. I'm like, oh, network. I get this. No problem. Sure. Yeah, it's IP addresses and a cross-point matrix to be able to route stuff. Yep, here we go. And we had Dante deployment up and running throughout the whole building, lickety-split. No problem. Because I learned what network, all these network architecture stuff.
And you know what? You bring up a good point, because in that time frame, it was copper point to point. And a lot of audio engineers really struggled with that transition of networking in the audio world. And some of the folks today that are in this don't get that because they grew up in the networking world. But for those that didn't, and we had to run snakes that were multi-channel snakes. And if you were going to split to go to a monitor desk, it had to have ISO transformers and all of these things. The point to that is I think you guys were at an advantage there because a lot of churches struggled with that and still maybe even today, if they're just now getting funds to kind of upgrade to new things, it's a struggle because audio engineers in the day didn't have to be network guys. They didn't have to understand that. I mean, it was a point to point. Plug into channel 1, it's channel 1 on over here, plug it into the box, boom, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a little reflection back in my head as you're mentioning that was and could still be a challenge for some folks because audio guys aren't, I mean, especially if they're volunteers and they have other careers and they're not IT people, they're not computer folks, it can be difficult.
Yeah. When I can chase the end of this wire to where it goes over there, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But when I chase this wire to a box and then it hits a network switch, where does it go from there?
Yeah. And it ends up on channel 43 on the console. But yeah.
It's channel 17 on the network, but I'm going to plug it into channel 43, route it to channel 43 on the console. It can get pretty messy pretty quick.
Yeah.
But all of that, like frame relay architecture and all these other things that I had learned in the telecom world paid huge dividends for me.
Well, that's great.
When I got into the church world. So
you're at Kirk of the Hills, 9 years.
Kirk of the Hills for 9 years. Yeah. Launched some new campuses while we were there, and just had a great time. I really loved my time in the church. It was awesome. During my time at the church, I found out that Martin Lighting had a new house of worship guy.
It's guilty.
The timing of this stuff is like this isn't an accident. I don't believe in coincidences anyway, right? And the fact that your role at Martin shifted to be the house of worship vertical market manager. Is that what it was? Market manager?
It was market manager.
Happened about the same time that I started at the church in Tulsa.
I want to say it was about 5 months before, but nonetheless, that lines up.
It was really close.
Yeah.
It was really close.
Yeah.
So now you were the worship guy, and I was now a guy working for a church. And so, hey, we still have reasons to talk on the phone other than just, hey, bud, how's it going? Haven't talked in a long time.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, 9 years did that at the church. We stayed connected. We worked on some projects together, actually, where we did some big upgrades for the church. And we actually got to the point where I could say, yep, this church is entirely a Martin facility, which actually felt really good at one point to be able to say that. I actually launched our campus in the southwest part of the metro in Jenks, Kirk Crossing. And that one was a full Martin project at the time, 10, 12 years ago, however long ago that was, that we got that one happening. But yeah, ministry was going great. And I got a phone call one day saying, hey, I'm doing this worship thing. I think Harmon had acquired Martin at that time.
Well, we could go back a little bit further. I think I know where you're going with this. But,
okay, let's back up a little bit.
I remember reaching out to you saying, hey, me and some guys are doing this thing called Worship Arts Technology Summit. Would you want to come help and hang out?
Yeah.
And it was in Muskegon, Michigan.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, let me see if I can get off, and you came. And so we started doing the education side of stuff together. We don't have to dive deep into that because for time's sake, but that was great for me because I was like, I know him, I trust him, and let's see kind of how this working together, doing this thing, educating, and I think that really set up the tone for what you're about ready to say. But because we did several different things with Watts, which was an amazing time. Quite frankly, I loved that. And I think that's what built my confidence up to be able to, and I'll let you continue now. So,
okay. Yeah. I thank you for putting that in there. I'd totally forgotten about that piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting to do the Worship Arts Technology Summit events with you was really cool. And, the fact that you reached out to different technical directors and lighting designers from churches around to come in and speak, and from a teaching and education side of things was a lot of fun. And it was great to kind of get out of my bubble.
Yep.
in my geographic area and even my own church to be able to see these other perspectives from some of these other guys that had come in for the Watts events. And somewhere around 2015, I got a phone call from you saying, "Hey, I want you to think about something. We're kind of in a building phase right now of growing the team here at Harmon, in worship specifically. And would love to talk to you about what, if that would be a fit." And so I thought about it and prayed over it for a little while. And it was kind of like, okay, I felt like I had done everything I could do for the church at the time. I'd given everything to grow us to the point we were at. We'd launched some new campuses and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, everything's working. I had this knack throughout my career. It seems like going back to the chateau. I come in, stuff's broke, stuff's not working well. I can come in, I can fix it. I can make the systems work again. Okay, everything's up and spinning. I don't want to say automated, but everything's working. There are systems in place that are just happening and operating. Okay, now I feel like I can hand this to somebody, and I'm not handing them a hot mess. Yeah, I can hand them something that's functional and working, not just technology-wise, but systems and processes-wise. I was kind of that place of the church about the time that you had reached out about growing the team at Harmon, and prayed over it. And I was like, okay, I think this is the next logical step for me. And wound up having some conversations with you, and things obviously, you knew where my heart was, and you said, great, we just need to have a conversation with your boss at the time. So, okay, cool. And I remember getting a phone call from him, and he's like, hey, just want to get to know you and this, that, and the other. How long you been at the church? What's the thing? And gave him my whole story. And he asked me a really interesting question. And I want to dive into this just a little bit. He said, how does the church buy gear? Like, how do you make purchasing decisions at your church? And I said, well, let me tell you this. I can smell the salesman from half a parking lot away. It's like when you show up in your navy blue blazer and your crisp white shirt and your khaki pants and your loafers, and you've got your glossy printed 2-sided thing that shows me all of your products and services and things that you can do for me to make my life better. Sorry, just leave it at the front desk. I'll look at it when I have a chance. But when my buddy Daryl calls and says, hey, I'm going to be in Tulsa next Wednesday. Cool. I'll clear my afternoon to be able to hang out with you, because the church won't be sold stuff, right? I mean, we said that forever, right? And he's like, oh, okay, that's an interesting viewpoint. That's cool. Ultimately, I get offered the job. I take the job. I go in for some meetings, like first week, right? I have to go into the office down in Dallas is where I did a bunch of onboarding stuff. Went into the Dallas office, and he flew in because he wanted to meet me face to face. Make sure I was actually like a normal human being.
You had all your teeth in your head.
Yeah, I didn't have like face tattoos and stuff, right? Yeah. Anyway, he comes walking in to meet me. You know what this guy's wearing? He's wearing a blue blazer, a crisp white shirt, khaki pants, and loafers.
Everything
I just said, that's a salesman's outfit. And I think he was wearing that when I talked to him on the phone that day. I think that was just his uniform, because that's all I ever really saw him in. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I was like, oh, that's okay. I don't know if this is a good start or not, jumping off there. But
it's fine.
But yeah, went through the process there with Harmon, and wound up joining the team doing worship stuff there at Harmon. And you and I kind of saddled up together there for a number of years, and we did the Impact Worship Tour. Which was a lot of fun. It was again that educational side of things.
And bringing it to the people.
Right. And we took it all over the place and did everything from how to light, building a mix for worship, all kinds of different things. And that was part that I really loved, was the education, the transfer of knowledge piece. Am I an expert in lighting? No. Am I an expert in audio? No. But am I good enough to tell you how to maybe make what you're doing better? Yeah. I have some experiences that I can share. You have experiences that you can share with me.
And you got a few guys you can reach out to too. That's the other side, right? The network of folks.
Yeah. Having the network's huge. The network's huge. So, did the Harmon thing. We were actually able to grow the team there to even 3. We had the 3 amigos riding there for a while.
Oh yeah. I still have that graphic somewhere.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, did that. And you called me one day and you're like, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm like, what's up? You said, I think I'm going to leave. I said, where are you going? When are you going to come back? And what kind of trip are you going on? He said, well, I've had a conversation with these guys at Chauvet. I think this is what I want to do. I was like, man, if this is where the Lord's leading you, absolutely. You have to do this.
Yeah.
You must do this. And you're like, man, I don't want to. I hate to leave you and Lucas. I mean, I feel like we've got a good thing going. I said, yeah, but this is going to be a great thing for you. Yeah. And so you head off to Chauvet, and I'm now in charge of the team, running the team there at Harmon. And it was great. I think the thing I liked least about that time is that now you and I were competitors.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But I mean, I think we really only bounced into each other. That's the first time we probably were competitors, if you will, like where we couldn't work together. I mean, right. Yeah. We did run into each other at one event that I can remember, and we both made it super comfortable. I'm not going to say everyone around us made it comfortable for either one of us,
right?
But one-on-one, we made it very comfortable for each other. So,
right.
And that's when I knew it was going to be good. But I would just have to say, like, in that season, I think the big thing, and I want to speak into that a little bit, because a lot of times when we transition and we've worked alongside of somebody, and then now we're in different areas or even a competitor type scenario, I think a lot of times the easy thing to do is to just do the competitor thing and try to win. Mm-hmm. And I think what was important in that time frame, which, I mean, you and I even had a conversation about it, where I basically said, hey, I know that we've done these things together.
Yeah.
And these things are the things that we did while I was there, and now I'm not there. You should continue to do those things. I will not do those things. Mm-hmm. I will find new things to do. Really, because there's a lot of other things that could be done.
Sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to find the new things so that way I don't disrupt what you guys are doing, really kind of what we started and you guys are continuing, mm-hmm. right? And I think that's important. We had that open dialogue to where it was like a gentleman's agreement, if you will.
Right. Yep.
Like you go do your things, and if you were involved in that conference, I'm not going to pursue that as a new thing on the Chauvet side. I'll go find new opportunities. What maybe not even conferences. Maybe Anyway, I think that was important.
Yeah.
I think that I think there's some solid thought process in that, and I think that we've come out on the back end of that. Again, not that, and a lot of people think that if you work for two competing manufacturers, that like the two people hate each other. That's not the case. Absolutely not the case in this industry.
In fact, more often than not, that's not the case.
That's not the case. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that when they're in the same room in front of a customer together, that it's not a competition.
Oh, I'm still going to tell you my stuff's better than
Heck
his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. So anyway, continue, my friend.
But yeah, but rolled through a couple years there with the Harmon, Team Harmon and Team Chauvet, kind of.
Yeah.
But we did do a good job of. We did have the gentleman's agreement of saying, okay, cool, this is the lane that we've been running in and going down the tracks. You were laying new tracks over with the Chauvet team, which was great. And that was rocking and rolling. We were having great success with a lot of things we were doing. And then 2020 came around, which I hate to keep bringing it up because this is now episode 2 where we have to use those numbers. But it was an impactful year for everybody. Unfortunately, it was a really impactful year for me because that was a time when Harmon said, "Hey, we're not going to focus on house of worship anymore."
Yeah.
And nobody had a crystal ball. Nobody could see what was coming. But of all the industries, of all the vertical markets, during 2020, if anything, house of worship accelerated.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
During that time.
As we're sitting here talking about it, I can distinctly remember the phone call that you called me that morning and said, "Well, I'm a free agent." And I was like, "You're a free agent? What do you mean?" And you told me. I was like, "Oh man, are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
So,
and it wasn't
anyway.
it wasn't just House of Worship. It was a much bigger business decision that that organization had to make, which is fine.
And in fairness, a lot of manufacturing, a lot of companies had to make those tough decisions.
Yeah.
You know, that's nothing on them that they didn't want to. It's just, you know, we all know what happened. We all know the scenario. I will just say that I'm super thankful and blessed that in my world, that was still very much a priority. And I'll leave that there for now.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So
I was a free agent.
So you're a free agent now.
Yeah. I moved around a little bit, you know, kind of worked aligned with a couple integrators over that time, did a bunch of contract work, you know, just whatever made sense at the time. Probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years of that. And you and I stayed in pretty tight communication, you know, just as bros.
Through a lot of the stuff you were doing, there was still, now we're back into the manufacturer, integrator, vendor type role, right? So we're able to start working on projects together again, right?
Right. So we had a handful of those. And I remember you and I had a conversation at one point. You reached out and said, hey, I think we're to the point to where, like we did at Martin, we're ready to grow the House of Worship team at Chauvet. And I said, that's really cool. I'm so happy for you guys. I don't think now's the right time. Don't call me, I'll call you, I think is what I said. Because I just started down a track in the integration world, and I just aligned with this team. And I was like, I feel like I need to give this a fair shake. It had been a month, 6 weeks maybe, when you had reached out. And I was like, hey, I'm super excited about that for you guys as an opportunity. However, I think I need to give this a fair shake, at least a year to see what happens here. And we kind of left it with, don't call me, I'll call you. And to your credit, you totally honored that.
100%.
Now, we talked a lot, but that topic never came up again.
And let me tell you, the entire time, at least half of that time, we were ready to hire someone. And, I mean, so I was itching to have the conversation like, hey, so where are you at? What are you thinking? You know? And so anyway.
So it was off doing our thing. And a little over a year later, I guess it was, I reached out and called you. I said, hey, remember when we had that conversation last year? And I said, don't call me, I'll call you. And you said, yeah. I said, well, buddy, I'm calling you. And we spun up the conversation again. And fortunately, the organization Chauvet was still at the spot where they're like, yeah, we're invested in this. Like we're ready to double down on our efforts in the worship community and reinvest back into the worship community. So yeah, let's do it. And I said, great, let's go. So joined the team at Chauvet back in 22. In the worship.
A little over almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in August, right?
Yeah. We're coming up on the 3-year mark now. Yeah.
And they said it wouldn't last.
Look at that. So, so I've been doing that for the last 3 years, and you know, I love some of the stuff that you started when you first came into Chauvet.
Good answer. Good answer.
I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. But you know, we're on the Thought Leader podcast, right? And I remember seeing Thought Leader and hearing about Thought Leader and what it was, and you and I would have conversations about it. I was like, dude, so tell me what this thing is you're doing. And I think it was right after you had kind of moved it to the online platform. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Mentor circles and like that transfer of knowledge thing that I talked about earlier. It's like, and like peer-to-peer learning and mentoring and supporting each other. That's super cool. I love that. And you were like, man, you should totally jump in. I was like, I'm aligned with an integration team right now, and I feel like that might be a conflict of interest. And you're like, no, you should come in because it'll be fine. I'm like, I felt weird about that. So I didn't want to jump in.
The caveat is we're not shooting fish in a barrel.
Right.
So there's no commercialization. If you want to come in and invest in guys and gals and that kind of stuff, and great. It's all about a heart posture.
Right. And I think you knew where my heart was 100%. In all of that. But at the same time, I didn't want to muddy the waters for anybody else. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm just
fair enough.
Not going to blur any lines. I'm with an integration partner. I'm just not going to do that right now. But you know, seeing the mentor circles and the way that the folks are able to connect within those, I was like, man, that is super cool. That's really neat. And so now getting to be on this side of it and getting to help facilitate that and I mean, you and I spend a lot of time during the week in the back end of thought leader.
Oh, yeah.
Systems to make things happen.
Yep.
But seeing what is able to be facilitated on a biweekly basis, and even throughout the off weeks, I was like mentor circles every other week, but even on those off weeks, the conversations that's still happening within the community online and stuff is really neat to see happening.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's now broken out of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And it's become a global thing now at this point.
Yeah.
Where we've got South Africa and India and, all these other spots that are around the globe that are starting to light up with some thought leaders. And it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Just on that real quick, I'll just say that, we have zero focus to go outside the United States, but yet God has taken the message and dropping it in some certain areas. And I think that's just cool to watch because those individuals are pretty much committing to it.
Yeah.
I mean, probably more so than some of the folks in the United States,
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, we all have seasons, but man, it's super cool to see that aspect. Since you just mentioned it, I thought I would say it. And, maybe at some point, God will lead us in that direction to put more energy in some other regions, but, it's kind of fun. And I'm super glad that you're part of it as well. I mean, there's the human side that's like, okay, another body, less load on my end. But then in a lot of ways, really what we were able to do with you coming into the Chauvet team and, then being part of the thought leader, all the stuff we do thought leader wise is it was really it was a double down. It was accelerator was at about 20%. Now it's time to go to 65%, right? It wasn't a slow down or a, hey, let me get some stuff off my plate so I have a little bit. It was okay, what are the things we're going to continue to do all this? What are the things we're going to build?
Right.
And I mean, having you part of the team, I mean, you bring a skill set that I can do some of it, but I don't love doing it. You love doing it. And just that teamwork aspect really takes it to the next level of what we can do, how we can help support to facilitate this stuff. And I don't want to take away anything about, we have some individuals who are behind the cameras, even right here in this room with us right now, that we couldn't do this without, the leadership team as well. So make that very clear.
The leadership team is amazing, and just the thought leader community is just great, and the way that folks will step up. Yeah, we put an ask out there. Hey, could somebody help with? And it's like, yep, I'm there.
Yeah, the only one that when they respond that quick. And we say, we already got it filled, bud. That's Jeff Watkins.
We got to watch out for Watkins.
Yeah, I mean, when
you
love you, bud.
You let him do one event, he'll want to do all the events with you.
Yeah. Yep. So,
but we do have an amazing team, and it's been a lot of fun to see where Thought Leader had started and where it has grown to, but then all the new fun things that we've been able to come up with over the past few years together.
Yeah.
As things like live event. We've done a handful of those at this point.
Yes, of which the story behind that is that the leadership team, you included, wanted to do this live event, and I was the only one in the room that did not want to do it.
That's right. Yeah,
but I freaking love it.
Do you?
I do. Yeah. The process still gives me a little anxiety. Of just we're going into a space we've never been in before. We're getting gear that's not our gear sometimes, putting some of our gear with other people's gear, renting some stuff in. Maybe our video guys bring trying to get it all together. And then we're bringing, a good group of solid folks that know a lot of stuff, but we've never done this thing with all this gear in this place to get, and we've got less than 24 hours to get it done and go live and interact with people globally.
Right.
That just gives me a lot of, however, the first one went amazing. Yeah. Did we have a little snafu or two? Yeah. Second one, did we have a little snafu? Yeah. Third one, was there a snafu on the backside that other people really didn't know about, but we had to deal with in the studio? Yeah. Yep. But every one of them has been great. Yeah. And the important part about that for me is that the impact and the feedback that we get from the people, not just the engagement. I mean, the engagement during the event is amazing because that tells you right there that people are there, they're engaged, they're asking questions, we're able to respond, all that kind of stuff. But it's the follow-up text that you get or the follow-up comments about, the value and the impact. And And seeing people even go, hey, I like this. I'm going to go check out the platform and jump it in.
Yeah.
That's when you go, all right. But anyway, sorry. That people needed to know that live event was not something I wanted to do, but everyone else said it's what we have to do. And I said, well, I guess then we're doing it, dang it. So,
and that's one of the cool things about the way that Thought Leader has been set up, right? Is that it's majority vote of the leadership team.
Yeah.
You know,
I never should have done that. I never should have done that. I really.
If you'd have set it up as a benevolent dictatorship, that would have been better. But
100%, 100%, totally should have done that. I mean, we tell the leadership team like it is. It's kind of the majority rules in this. Like whatever direction we want to go. The only thing that we can trump is the dollar spend.
Right.
You know, since Chauvet is fully funding Thought Leader, like that's the only part that, and that doesn't mean that we won't do it. It's just we got to find a way to do it within maybe available resources or whatever. But yeah. So, I mean, I knew I was foobarred. I mean, as soon as everyone was like, yeah, let's do it, I was just like, stink. I guess we're doing this thing that's going to drive me crazy. But I think the exciting part was after the first one, though, and Neil Zimmerman's response afterwards of just like, that was awesome.
That was
fun. I
fun.
think the first response was, that was an hour and 50 minutes. Like it didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
And then just the overall energy as we pull out our microwave, or not our what am I trying to say? Frozen pizzas.
Frozen pizza.
Our frozen pizzas, and we're putting them in the oven, and that's kind of our tradition now after the event, and doing these, frozen pizza party at the house, and but just the energy that was in the room afterwards. And yeah, was there a technical snafu? Yes. I mean, did we set up on a balcony 3 stories above, and an hour before the event, we had to move everything to the living room, 3 stories down, rearrange our whole plan, make everything like, yeah, we did, but it took 33 minutes and it just happened.
Yeah.
Like it just happened and boom. So are you going to have a technical snafu potentially in the first 2 to 3 minutes? It happened.
Yeah.
But after that, it's like, boom, everything's back.
Right.
Continued on.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's fun. It's fun for me because that was a scenario where, again, it's like, I would not have done that. I would have said, no, we're not going to do a live event. Not even going to talk to people about it. We're just going to do something else.
Right.
But, God facilitated the right people in the right conversation, in the right circumstances to say, we need to do this.
Right.
And based on our arrangements, agreements, relationships, we said, okay, then I guess we're doing this. And even in the process of all the planning that we did going into it, and we got this great house with a balcony that has the backdrop of Nashville, and it's going to be killer. And realizing that with the thunderstorm coming in, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But then just everything, the switch got flipped. We moved it downstairs. 33 minutes later, everything's running. 30 minutes after that, we're going live. We go for 2 hours. Great engagement, great interaction, great questions. And afterwards, we're sitting around eating frozen pizzas, just acting like we just won the stinking Super Bowl.
Kind of felt like it at the time.
Not for our glory, but just like that was amazing. Like that energy, that adrenaline was there.
Yeah.
And so it's another one of those things that when you just kind of sit back and let God do the things and you put one foot in front of the other, but let him lead, it can be pretty amazing. So anyway,
just be faithful to what he's putting in front of you.
Yeah.
Like you said, that wasn't a Chris idea. That wasn't a Daryl idea to do a live event. That actually came out of the leadership team. We were having our annual leadership meeting, and somebody said something about, hey, wouldn't it be cool if?
I could name the guy.
Well,
or two.
There were a handful that really jumped on it.
But I'll leave that quiet.
Okay. But what's interesting was when we decided to do it and say, okay, we're going to commit to it. If this is a direction we need to go, we're going to do this. We didn't have to ask because it was, hey, let's do this. Oh, and by the way, I'll help. Well, I'll help too. Well, I'll help too. It's like the leadership team just stepped up and said, yeah, I'll jump in and help.
Well, I think that's the part that really, for me, because a lot of times I look at these things and for all intents and purposes, I mean, our leadership team, they're volunteers.
Yeah.
And so I look at it and go, okay, can Daryl and Chris make this happen? And I think it was Neil that said, we do this every weekend. Like, you don't have to do this. We can help do this.
Yes.
You don't have to do it on your own. And you go, okay. That makes me feel a whole lot more comfortable, number one. But then at the same time, you got to balance they've got day jobs.
Right.
They've got ministries to take care of. They've got families. They've got friends. They've got lives. And, we can focus every day on this leading up to it. And so anyway, but it's just the heart that comes in behind it to support it is pretty amazing. And we don't take that for granted at all.
No, not at all.
At all.
Not at all.
So
love getting to do it, though. It is a lot of fun.
I know.
It's a lot of fun.
All right. Anything else about Thought Leader? I mean, that brings us up to kind of where we're at.
Yeah, it brings us up to sitting here today, right now, doing this.
Yeah.
So, even the podcast idea was just, hey, let's try it and see what happens.
Yeah. For me, that one was like, I love doing podcasts. I love this, honestly, but like, what's the right content?
Right.
And I don't even know if this is the right content, but it feels right.
We'll start here.
Just being able to just tell our story and get it out there. And who are we?
Yep.
Where did we come from?
Yep.
How did I get so screwed up in life and ended where I'm at? All of that. So anyway.
C.S. Lewis has a quote that I love, and it's story always wins. Now, he means that within the context of a well-developed storyline.
Yes.
But story always wins. If you can tell a compelling story, that is what's going to matter and make a difference in someone's life.
Man.
So that's one that I heard, and it's just always stuck with me.
Chris, that's your 12 months that's your 1 year of college coming out. You should have went for 2 more.
Man.
3 more.
Man, if I'd had 3 more, who knows what I'd have come up with.
Dude, that's awesome. So you asked me a question in the first episode, and I think we're going to end this. So I'm going to turn the table back on you. And the question is, with all of your experience up to this point, if you could go back and tell the 18-year-old Chris Pyron, who was still 6'6" in stature.
8.
Oh, 6'8". Okay, there we go. 6'8" in stature. What advice would you give him?
What advice would I give him? Yeah, I knew I should have been careful starting something new with you, because
now it's your turn, buddy.
This is going to become a thing, I think. I think we're going to do this from now on. I don't know if it's a piece of advice, but this is the encouragement that I would give 18-year-old Chris. I would tell 18-year-old Chris that God's plans for your life are way bigger than you can possibly imagine right now. As a kid growing up in Branson, Missouri, if you tell me that I'm doing that, hey, 20 years from now, 25 years from now, you're going to be doing this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, right. I would not have been able to see it.
Yep.
God's plans for you are way bigger than you can possibly imagine right now. God's faithfulness is deeper than you can possibly comprehend. And don't be afraid to take that next one step, because you can't steer a boat if it's not moving. That's a Daryl Sutton analogy right there. A boat has to be moving forward for the rudder to work. Be faithful to take that next step, even if you're not 100% sure where you're going exactly. God needs you to take that first step in faith to be able to guide your path forward. So just keep moving forward, knowing that God is faithful and he has a bigger plan for you than you could possibly imagine.
That's awesome. That's great. All right. Well, it's time to get some coffee, buddy.
Let's get some coffee.
Thank you for sharing your story, man.
You bet, buddy. Thank you. Love you too, man.